conversation.
Good conversation with Alice?
We're hoping you decided to go home and just left us here. You know,
I'm gonna do that sometime.
there you go, I know.
Well, we met for an executive session to interview a candidate for the youth center, so that's what kept us.
Motion to come out.
Yes,
Yeah.
we make.
I'll make a motion to come out of executive session.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
So we're out of executive session, and let's start with public be heard.
I have three people. Paul Kastner and Sam Magarelli is 1 and 2.
We always come in pairs.
Like turtle ducks.
Yeah.
Maybe not this season.
I thought that was Larry Turtle. First of all, we just wanted to tell you that the open house moving into Saturday was a huge success.
Amen.
The merchants,
Great.
I think the merchants did very well. The town looked beautiful. I hope you all got to see the luminaries that really tied it all together. And the end result was that we're going to keep it on a Saturday. We may even start earlier in the day. But it was busy all day, and that bodes well for the town, the merchants, and the revenue that it generates. So we're very pleased, and we want to thank everybody involved in their cooperation. It was great.
Yeah. One of the things that the new trend is hoping to do is to actually provide more of an interest to the wider public outside of Woodstock to come and fill up the parking lot more frequently to generate more revenue for the town. So to generate more revenue for the shops, but also it would be beneficial to the town. So the more we can work hand in hand to make things better, we appreciate that. We understand that
Can you speak up a little bit more, please, Sam?
Sure. I was talking about the town and the business community collaborating to enhance the filling up that parking lot with out-of-towners paying money, which goes directly into the town treasury. Sorry to hear about the bathrooms because the temperatures have dropped precipitously.
And we have monitored them. The heaters just can't keep up, and we're afraid with teens or single digits that the pipes are going to freeze.
No, there was yes, there was and we appreciate the commitment to try to keep them open through the holidays. Unfortunately, the weather isn't obliging, and I think it's even getting colder the next few days.
Tomorrow, I think, or tomorrow night 17, and one night I think is almost 0.
I was going to say 3, that's what I said.
So we debated, I discussed with maintenance and water, and we didn't
So,
like
yeah,
it.
but we're looking forward to some more permanent remedy to enhance the insulation and the capacity of that building to stay open longer. It's the first thing the visitors from out of town come, first place they sort of pass by, and sort of make it look really nice. As I mentioned before, the town's been remarkable with the highway garage and the town hall and its other facilities, the community center. So the bathrooms, which is another piece of the town infrastructure, that would be great. And I appreciate the fact that there's an interest on the part of the board.
One of the things you were going to do too is put up a sign directing people to the other bathroom.
We have the signs. I know I just signed the voucher for it today.
Great. That's a good
We'll
point.
direct them down here. So if they're not up yet, they should be installing them when they go to close the bathrooms.
Fabulous.
In fact, I don't even think they got to them today. I think they'll probably do them tomorrow.
Okay.
That's how long we held off in trying to make a
That's
decision.
great, thank you.
So,
Do you recollect the language on
I
that?
don't see
Does it talk in terms of
70.
350 yards or whatever?
Are you around?
You know, we wrote up a couple of different things, and I left it to at the maintenance man and Chester and Kerry to put the words together. So.
Okay. I mean, because it is a distance if you're in a hurry to go use the
Right.
facility, but it's actually not that far.
No, it isn't.
And they are wonderful bathrooms that the town has been providing for the public.
On another note, you did leave me a message about the construction on
Yes, that was the other,
212.
one of the other
Yes,
things with the
And
street.
when we had met with Randy several months ago, one of the things that I said is that we would keep the chamber involved in that discussion as we got closer. So the engineers are still planning.
What we're worried about, though, is that they may already decide, and then, boom. okay,
We've mentioned that this is something we would want to take a good hard look at.
Right, but the chamber was hoping that maybe the construction could start in March or something, in early spring.
March might be pushing it, but
But early.
possible, yeah, as early as
And
possible.
we were hoping that maybe the town could acquire the support of Mike Klein, because he sees the value in Woodstock's business community
Sure.
in terms of the revenue to the town.
Sure, sales tax.
Right.
Is there any idea how long the project takes? Is there any guesstimate?
You know, the engineers haven't gotten that far. Once the entire design is put together, they'll create a timetable,
Okay.
and we'll have a better idea. And we're pressing the engineer on reed beds. That's the top priority right now.
Which is a wonderful
Yeah.
Thank you.
money saver for the town.
There will be, yeah, we're very excited about it because it really seems to have all fallen into place. But I know that they're working on 212. So I'll try and find out for our next meeting
Great.
where we're at with that.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
David Gross?
Good evening. Last Saturday, Sustainable Hudson Valley and Transition Woodstock put on a seminar presentation on electric vehicles and the infrastructure needed for electric vehicles at the community center. I know Laura was there. The place was packed. Oh, I'm sorry, you were there too,
Well, I
Kathy?
was there for just the beginning.
Was that before Sam beat you up?
Oh,
And
I don't think Sam could take
Sam's been
Kathy.
taking you there.
So the place was packed, and that showed me that there's a real interest in this town in electric vehicles and the infrastructure needed to support them. I'm hoping the town will consider purchasing an electric vehicle or a plug-in hybrid in the near future. And I'm also hoping that the town will support putting in some electric vehicle charging stations. I think the logical places are the Rock City Road parking lot, the Lower Comoe parking lot that Bill suggested, and possibly the Mountain View parking lot if we can run electric service to that parking lot at a reasonable rate. I'll be in touch with all of you about the real nuts and bolts of it. So I just want to thank you for your time. And finally, I want to thank the Highway Department for taking care of that really terrible bump in the Comoe Drive. Every time I'm over at 30 miles an hour, I lose control of my car.
45?
I-
That's slow?
Yeah, well, I'm
Oh,
sorry, I
good
was losing
God.
control of
If you go
that.
faster, you just kind of glide on.
I love the winter for that reason.
Thank you very much for your time.
I can't imagine what
David,
that was.
just to
Me
let you
neither.
know,
Me neither, but you know what?
because you had spoken with
You
Mark
handled
Blake
it well.
about the electric car, the assessor, and we had our department head meeting last Thursday, and we had a lengthy discussion about electric cars, and when I asked each of them, we didn't come to any resolution, but asked each of them to consider how practical it would be and what types of trips they would be taking. For instance, the court was there, and they said, well, you know, we go to classes, we could use it for going to classes, if their classes are more than 50 miles. So that was a consideration. So anyway, I hope that next month they will come back to me and they'll have some thoughts that I can pass on to you.
But just so you know, there are some all-electric vehicles that will go over 100 miles right now today that are on the
Okay.
road. And of course, the idea of a plug-in hybrid is, which goes all electric until it runs out of battery power, which typically is around 50 miles in the best case. I would obviously prefer an all-electric, but if we can't do that for logistical reasons, because of the way people are driving, then certainly a plug-in hybrid would work.
What did Kingston just buy? Was it a hybrid or electric?
I don't know,
Chevy Volts.
which is a plug-in hybrid.
Yeah,
They're hybrids, okay.
Yeah, they run all electric up to 50 miles, and then the small little Atkinson cycle engine kicks in and they get 40 plus miles per
Well,
gallon after
what I'd
that.
like to see us do though, is I'd like to see us give some thought as to what vehicles the town will be purchasing in the future. And maybe it's not the right answer to have every vehicle be electric, but there
No, I don't
ought to
think
be
it
some,
is.
but there ought to be some vehicles, it would seem there might be some vehicles that are just used around town. And because it's green, because there are a lot of savings, the cost right now is a little higher, but there are some tax rebates on the electric vehicles. It was a great seminar, I learned a lot in the seminar. But I think it would be a good strategy for the town to be giving some thought to what vehicles we might be purchasing in the future, and then lay out a plan for which one of them might be electric. And there are more and more plug-ins, as we learned in the seminar, more and more plug-ins up and down the thruway.
Charging stations.
Charging stations, yeah,
Yeah.
charging
Yeah.
stations.
Well, one thing that I got from the seminar was that while a municipality cannot avail itself of the $7,500 federal tax credit that's now available for electric vehicles, a dealer can, and if you lease a vehicle from a dealer who takes that $7,500 tax credit, that $7,500, if you're a good negotiator, comes right off the top of the price. And you could actually, probably structure a lease so that the monthly payments are high enough so that at the end of the lease term, you give the dealer $1 and you own the car. Just some thoughts, so
Yeah,
that way.
the other thing that, when I was talking to Amanda Laval, apparently the grant that's available will cover 80% of the cost, but the other 20% that the town would have to kick in could be in-kind costs, so that we wouldn't
You have to
necessarily.
pump your own gas, plug your
Yeah,
own
right,
car.
no, but it wouldn't necessarily cost us actual money, or maybe a little money, but we could have
We
two
could
different
have
departments.
highway do the labor.
Yeah, do some of the work so that it's
Exactly.
not gonna cost us that much to
Right,
put
that-
I think you were talking like about that.
yeah,
I have to meet with Mike and talk to him about specific locations that would not interfere with plowing operations, because that's a very real world consideration that we have to address. But he's indicated that he's very anxious to go out and take a look at it. He was not on duty yesterday, he had other fish to fry.
A little bit.
Yeah.
And also, I think it was, I forget if it was Amanda or John I was speaking to, the cost for Kingston for a year with 16 stations was only in the hundreds, like
480.
400 and something dollars,
Yeah.
which, at first I was concerned that it would be very costly for the town to have those operating, but it sounds like it won't be.
It won't be, and the first 2 years are covered by a grant, and after that, I'm sure we can find sponsors like maybe the film festival, maybe the Chamber of Commerce, people like that in town who would sponsor the cost of the electricity for the charging stations, which, as you say, is minimal.
Yeah, so I think, so far it's looking pretty positive with what's going on with that, in my mind.
Yep. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On this topic, I was glad to read in the paper today that the very first offshore wind generating electric plant has gone into operation near Block Island in Long Island Sound. The first one in this country would be dragging our ass for a long time.
3 turbines, and I think they can power, I think it said 17,000 homes.
Wow.
Pretty
And
amazing.
There's wind right there, that's a good wind generator.
We
also,
can put one in this room.
also on this topic, what's the latest on our grid?
Our solar,
Yeah,
nothing,
nothing?
still working on it.
I
No,
say we go for smaller solar projects.
well, that,
That
actually,
might be,
I think that may.
I think that might be a
in
better.
the new year, I
setup.
think we should take another look at that and decide how we
Yeah,
want to,
that's,
what direction.
Okay.
that's where my head's going.
Yeah, happy to work on that.
So, that was it for the public we heard?
Yes.
Okay, Mike Reynolds was supposed to send me a note, but he didn't, but he did verbally ask me to remind everybody that it's winter time, that it snows in the winter, and that it's not helpful to have cars parked on the road when they're trying to plow. So please keep off the roads. The other thing is, if you do have somebody plowing, or you're plowing your driveway, and I don't do this, Sasha, don't plow across the road and leave big windrows in the middle of the road. So anyway, just makes their job much easier, and they do a great job. They did a great job yesterday, so they deserve a break. So, all right, so discussions.
Can I make another announcement?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, I went to the meeting the library had with the architects to present their 4 programs. Can't remember, some of you may have been there. It was an excellent program. They gave us a lot of information. The cost varies from, 1.4 to 5.5, I think. all I'm saying to the public is keep informed about what's going on with the library so you can make an informed decision when the time comes about what you actually want the library to do. There are a couple, 3 or 4 different options. I went in thinking I liked one, and then there was another one that looked positive, so I think people need to just keep informed, see what's going on, ask questions, so that when the time comes to make a decision, you can make an informed decision about what you want to have happen with the library.
Kathy, what was the dollar amount, 1.4 to 5?
Well, I think the first one with just the renovation for the existing library was 1.4. Do you
Right.
remember, Laura?
I thought it was 1.7, to be honest. I thought it was 1.7, but the highest was 5 point something.
5.5.
5 million?
The renovation
And there's some in the
alone,
middle of that. There was a 3 point something and a 4 point something and a 5 point something.
but the 5 point was if they tore the whole thing down and started from scratch. That was
Brand new building.
brand new building, that was the high.
Yeah, but there,
So what were the four choices, as I understand?
I'm sorry.
A renovation.
One was renovate.
I kind of can tell you.
Okay,
Okay,
renovation.
so the 1.75 million choice was keep the same building, but clean it up,
Renovate
fix the basement, fix the safety
Everything.
problems, renovate it.
Mhm.
The second choice was keep the main building, but add to the back of the building.
The same renovation plus an addition.
Plus an addition, and that was choice 2. And choice 2A was that with a huge addition, right? You could have an addition that kind of keeps in line, but a huge addition. Choice number 3, as I recall, is you keep the library, but you put a covered walkway, and you build a second building right on 212, so it's on the property, but you'd have a building on 212, and then the walkway, so you wouldn't have to close the
So
library at all.
that's a renovation and an addition as well.
Yeah, kind of, right, yeah, they would all do some renovation, right, and in addition, but it would be right on 212 with a walkway, 2 separate buildings connected. And then choice number 4, or choice number 5 if you count the one as being 2 and 2A, which they did. The last choice was tear it totally down, start over. That was there were 2 that were the most expensive. That was one of the 2 that was equal in being the most expensive, but it also had the greatest downtime, because that had 2 years of downtime. The advantage of the one where you build the building on 212 is there's no downtime, because you still have the building, you build the other one and you just connect the 2, so there was 0
Yeah, and
downtime.
at first I didn't like that, but the way I looked at it, it's not quite exact way up on the front of 212. It's pushed back a little, and there's a whole courtyard in the middle with grassy area, and in a way, as we move forward and there's more traffic, it might be nice to have a courtyard in the middle of the 2 buildings that's kind of away from the traffic, it's safe, it's a good spot. So what I'm saying to the public is there's a lot of options out there with a big differential in prices, and I would suggest you look into it. They had a handout with all the different options and the costs and what it entailed. So I'm saying, keep informed so that when you go to vote, when this comes up, you know what to do.
Yeah,
I think the whole building should be torn down and rebuilt from scratch, and that the cost needn't come anywhere near $5+ million. Again, as I pointed out for a long time, the town of Woodstock has a large, new, modern building with a basement below it that is extremely complex. I've been down there for 1 million storage rooms, and the whole thing came in under $1 million.
Where is this, Jay?
Town of Kingston.
The town of Kingston.
I
Yeah,
was going to say,
Yeah.
and that's what I was trying to do here. But in any event, how the construction style will have a hell of a lot to do with the cost.
Absolutely.
And costs can be much less than what they were coming up
And maybe it
with.
will be, and I want to add a couple things too. Is the PowerPoint, besides having the one sheet that Kathy talked about, they also showed a PowerPoint presentation. It's not yet on the Woodstock Library website, but it's supposed to get posted there. So if you check www.woodstock.org and you go to the planning tab, that's where they're planning to put the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint is going to flush out, it'll have more detail about the different choices that we just talked about, the 4 or 5 choices. And then there's also an email address, masterplan@woodstock.org, where they're interested in everybody's input. So, like Jay's input, that you could build it, but probably could build it for less. What I will say, part of what into the price is they did a lot of research and some assessment of what they thought the library size should be for our size town, and also some different innovative ways to have the book storage and the book, I forget what they called it, but a book bin or whatever they
Yeah.
call it. So they did have some innovative things that would use less floor space, but have us have greater capacity. So they had some ideas of what capacity our town should have, and part of that folded into what the price was.
Okay. Thank you, Laura.
Yeah.
Any other announcements?
Well, I did just want to say, I keep talking about the crosswalk, and I did get some more information from Dennis Larios. He does hope to get some information to me later on this week about the cost for Part 1, because the crosswalk, as I've learned, it is really a Part 1 and a Part 2. Part 1 is you figure out what the design is, and you need to hire professionals to figure out the design, and there's a cost to that. But then once you have the design, you can figure out the cost for the implementation. So we're at kind of step 1, but he did say that this week he would get me some cost information for doing the planning and design that would satisfy New York State DOT. So, and part of the library conversation, they were saying, well, what do we do? People in the crowd brought up the fact there's the parking lot on one side, so I think the crosswalk will definitely help. So we're on a path. We'll see how well we get there, but.
While we're talking about Dennis Larios, he and I have been going back and forth, and we've had a couple of meetings with the DEC about the Reed Bread project that we started a number of years ago. And it was moving along quite well a couple of years ago, and then the DEC came in and said, no, you're not allowed to use this Phragmites because it's not native, and that shut the whole thing down. And we waited for a long time for decisions, and I don't think they've really truly absolutely made a decision, but they have some guidelines that they're pretty comfortable with. And there's an American Phragmites that apparently will do the job. And there's now a track record with them. They seem to be doing the job just as well. But there is more monitoring costs associated with it. And so Dennis and Scott Davis from Constructed Wetlands, hopefully within the next week or two, should have a price back to us on what the additional costs would be.
Good,
And I'm hoping in January we can move forward with that.
wonderful.
Yeah, and nice work,
That'd be
Bill.
great.
Nice work, Bill, on that.
Okay, discussions, comprehensive plan. So, we have Sasha and Kirk, who were members of our committee, who made a recommendation for BHAN. Maybe we'll start with you, if you guys wanted to come up and talk a little bit about your options and your discussions and how you landed where you did. Yeah.
We had 4 submissions. Our committee went over all of the submissions very carefully. We also considered whether or not it could be done in-house. It was the unanimous consensus of the committee that it could not be done in-house as efficiently as the submissions. We, of the 4 submissions, 2 were very costly and were predicated on larger communities than ours. The other 2 we looked at very carefully, and we came to a consensus, and that was the letter that we sent to you. Kurt, anything additional?
No, that was a great summary. We agreed on everything unanimously as a committee. You know, part of the reason that we chose what we did, we went through a process where we submitted some questions to the respondents, additional questions. And we got responses back from some of them, not all of them. So, and then we were also going to offer ourselves, right? Then
I'm over it.
He
doesn't care.
Yeah, wait. Okay, maybe that didn't tell me.
You better be pretty clear about what you're offering.
No, so here's let me Yes, I will. I'm about to be, I just need a little bit more time. So, there, we felt, we gave you a recommendation, and we felt that if there was a need for any further inquiry, perhaps a face-to-face interview prior to announcement of a selection, that we would help facilitate that or support you in that interview process. So that it wouldn't fall upon you alone as a burden to do that we would make ourselves available, there's that phrase, to support you in facilitating that further inquiry, if you decide to do that. You've got our support for that to happen.
Okay, well, thank you.
But we also feel like the response from from the respondents to the questions made it really clear that each of them had a very comprehensive view, forgive the pun, but of the task at hand. Both current trends taking place in other aspects of the Hudson Valley region regarding planning and city-town planning, so other communities of comparable size, and then also with the specifics also that we face here. And from everything from land use and zoning, ready to address all those issues that we're facing, and all the way through to water management and climate change and issues associated with the type of change that we may face with emergency response. The other things regarding planning in terms of changes in demands, of demographic demands. So those are the things that will be part of it. So one of the things that I wanted to emphasize, if you will, please allow me to.
Sure, take your time.
Is that this is a 10 to 12 month long engagement, and it requires the community's engagement to be successful. The engagement is, with the community, and the more people, the more residents of the community that become a part of this process, the more successful the comprehensive plan will be.
That was, by the way, part of the submission,
Right.
that it be the community
Right.
involved.
And so just so we're talking about Behan Planning Specialists.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is the company.
And they have a partnership with another.
Saratoga.
Yes,
Saratoga.
Yes.
Precisely.
And so that was their recommendation. They felt that it was very important to have this community involved.
Well,
Oh,
the
absolutely.
both of the
Yeah.
finalists did in that regard. It's an essential part of the success and the successful part of the engagement of the actual contract itself, right? So they all emphasize this, and I wanted to emphasize that so that we could have both the executive sponsorship from the town board and your backing of this, so to speak, but also helping the community understand that and engaging, requesting the community understand that there's requests coming your way.
Right,
And there's actions coming our way as a community. And so that kind of action, I think, coming from the community, from the town board, would be really helpful. And to also any interest in the comprehensive plan that's been expressed internally, right, the internal efforts to do something, I think too, that contribution could be made during this time with the public involvement, right? That level of volunteer efforts and that level of contribution to the town can certainly come forward at that time, with that professional leadership. So I really think all the factors are here now for a really good, the timing's right.
Also, it was not part of our purview, and so we didn't approach it, but certainly when you interview the respondents, you can negotiate price. As I said, that was not part of our purview.
Right.
We didn't go there,
Right.
but certainly the price that was quoted is negotiable.
I will say publicly that Behan Associates did reach out to Jeremy, I don't know if it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, And I did have a conversation with one of the partners there, and that was something that he volunteered before I even asked.
Well, yeah, as I say, that wasn't part of our purview, so we didn't pursue it, but we
It
we
sounds
knew
like the
that that was.
negotiation has begun.
Because part of what, and we'll get to it in a few minutes, but Councilman Link has his own ideas about how to proceed, and I did bring this up, and I did bring up the possibility that we had discussed some hybrid.
Certainly.
And he said, we can tailor a plan, we can work with you folks to come up with.
That was very clear
Yeah.
in their submission.
Do you have the sense, because I know that Jeremy had a committee together to work on the inventory and spent a tremendous amount of time on that. Do you have the sense that they spent a lot of time looking that over? You do?
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah,
Yes.
good question, but yes, there certainly is clarity and understanding that's present in their communications with us.
Good, good. Colleagues, any questions?
Sasha, you said at the beginning tonight that you had, and the committee,
Yeah.
had developed a lot, I don't remember exactly how you put it, but a lot of intensive work looking at the proposals. It's also true that your committee voted against considering a homegrown volunteer effort at the very first meeting. Therefore, my question, or one of them, is how much interest, how much effort, how many questions were raised in relation to the idea of a homegrown volunteer group to do
Yeah,
this?
well, I can answer that partially. In reading each of the submissions, though they were all different, we realized the complexity of what each of them was trying to submit, was trying to tell us. And based on the fact that we read all of the steps that they were going to take, we felt it would be much better in the hands of professional planners.
So therefore,
I have something to add to that.
Please.
Therefore, you didn't have any information, any details, any roadmap as to what a volunteer group could do before you
Well, that was one of the reasons
consigned
why,
it to the...
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead. I apologize, Ben.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why we voted unanimously to not go forward, because in my perception of the situation is that these people were responding to an RFP, a public RFP. And so there was a public event. And to come and engage in a process as you did, as what was happening, after the submissions of that public RFP, after the submissions. Now the submissions are in, and we still haven't seen any documentation from you as to what you would do, right? So there was no documentation whatsoever of what the volunteer group would do. And we have nothing to weigh it against other than to say, we don't have any information from you, other than that there's a possibility that somebody might do something. And so, but we at the same time have these 4 documents that were incredibly comprehensive and detailed in what they would do. And so it was a very clear message to ourselves that this was unanimous, that we shouldn't entertain this any further.
I'm sorry, but I would just add to that. I think you know that I have been a part of almost every volunteer group that has existed in Woodstock over the last umpteen years. And though a lot of us have certain kinds of expertise that we are willing to volunteer, we do not have the depth of knowledge that these people do.
Allow me to point out that, because I don't feel at all satisfied so far, I attended your second meeting. I'm not knowing that you had already decided to dismiss the volunteer thing at your first meeting. By the way, I did attend the first meeting and handed out paper that some of you guys hadn't had. In any event, I attended the second meeting in order to inquire what sort of information, what sort of whatever would your committee like to have in order to consider the idea of a free volunteer group rather than some 60,000. And I was told by you, Saj, at that meeting that no, it's too late already. You guys had decided at the first meeting without, in contradiction to what you're implying now, without ever asking, what have you got for us to look at? What ideas, what paper, there was nothing. There was no effort or interest, maybe more important than effort. There was no interest in your committee to inquire on what a volunteer free, rather than 60,000 plus dollars, would do, could do, was willing to do. You guys shot right past it.
Yeah,
We
jump
never
in?
asked them to do that. That was not what
Well,
they
that was
asked.
It damn well was.
Well, let me.
Okay, hold on, one at a time, So Laura, you,
What I would like to say, and this is, and I love Jay, but we disagree on this point. We do disagree on the point. Because different members of this board have also said, for the group that you have, that we also would like to see their statement of what they would do. I've asked for it in a previous meeting, I think I've heard Kathy ask for it in a previous meeting, that different people have asked for that in a previous meeting, and none of us that I know of have received a documented statement of what the volunteer group would do. We all love the volunteer group. We love the list of names that we see on the volunteer group, and they're wonderful people. And my personal opinion is what Sasha said a few minutes ago, is that these are professional groups. I know that I crawled through the Behan and Saratoga plan personally, and I loved I loved their organization. They were methodical, they were well stated what they would do. I had a couple of markups and questions so we get into negotiations. I like to share my markups and questions that I put on the page. But the piece of work they did to explain what they were doing was very clear. I was very confident. I attended one of your meetings, and I just want to say thank you to the committee, the task force, because everybody was so dedicated and caring and looking at things. And I do want to say thank you, my own thank you to the committee. And I know, and I appreciate Jay's passion for the volunteer committee, and I think they're all wonderful people and can be wonderful as part of the process. But nobody that I know has seen what you've said is, what's the statement of what they would do? I haven't seen it, and I've asked for it.
you know, I would just also echo, I know that, because I've talked to some of the members outside in public, you guys just did a tremendous job. You worked very well. You really did focus on all the material that you had in front of you, and you came to a decision. And we do appreciate it, and I know Jeremy appreciates it.
Yeah, and we asked you to do a particular task, which you did do. Jay, we are waiting to hear what you have to say, but also, having gone to the meeting with the library and having professionals inventory the town, to me, has been a real eye-opener as to what really good professionals who do that kind of intake and get that input from the town can do. And I'm still very much leaning toward having this professional group do the intake from the town to make sure we get as much information as we can in terms of what plan we're going to use. So I'm, respectfully disagree with Jay, but I'm willing to hear and listen to what your group suggests. But I thank you again for the work you did.
So let's let Jay go over that now, and I would just say that if we do move forward with Behan, I would love to have your support and have you at the negotiation
Would
to
be a pleasure.
discuss.
For me.
Be delighted.
Yeah, we'd be delighted.
Great, thank you.
And thank you.
So Jack,
Tonight was the date where we were going to discuss our group's work
Yes.
Right.
tonight. So that's why you didn't see
Okay,
anything
good
prior.
point, good point. I stand corrected because you're right, Jay, because we actually did ask you to have your group.
You're not
Oh.
standing, you're sitting.
I'm sitting, I know, but you're right, we did ask
He's
that,
nitpicking tonight.
yeah, we did ask that your group hold while the other group answers, so you are correct.
What I have here on two sides of one sheet is a raw questionnaire that would be sent to the residents of the town of Woodstock.
So there's
Yeah, there's a couple of extras there, maybe the press wants them. As I said, this is raw, this is the input. This is the input from a lot, 5 different people over a period of time. Our sense of how to proceed on this volunteer effort would be to start with a questionnaire, a survey, rather, a better word, of the residents of Woodstock. And to have that survey as deep and as penetrating, piercing as possible. We have on hand 2 recent executive summaries from 2009 and 2000. The 2009 executive summary, by the way, was worked on when Jeff Moran was supervisor and I was on the board at that time.
They're the same, one was just updated or tweaked.
They're different, but there's a lot of similarities, which gives us the idea that since there hasn't been very much change, it's a fairly straightforward effort that needs to be done. And again, starting with and based around the inquiry, the survey of the townspeople, that's essential. We have on hand, as you know, pretty good zoning laws. And not to say that none of them can be improved and so forth, but we feel that the zoning laws are the core and should be the core of a comprehensive plan. Keeping things, changing things, whatever, that's the central core. And so we commit, this, what I'm describing as a raw survey questionnaire, can be finalized within the week. And be happy to send it back to everybody here, matter of fact, for next week's meeting, and say, this is where we stand on a survey. This is the central part of getting the input of the town's residents and business people. And that's where we are.
So if I understand you, you're talking about updating the 2009 executive summary
Were you talking about using that
as a starting point?
as part of? In other words, we're not starting cold. We have a fairly recent background on comp plans, and we have our understanding of how to proceed, and that's, the procedure starts with the inquiry of the town's residents. Now, I had hoped that if we can agree next week that the survey that we have come up with, and this is not to say that the other thing needs to be squashed at this point.
The specialist.
Yeah,
the
no, well, yeah, it was just
plan.
let them keep marking time, but we can send out, hopefully, the board will agree to mail out these surveys to the residents and business people. I read earlier tonight on the Rosendale comp plan, they had sent out 3,800 questionnaires to their residents, and they received a 25% return, which is not bad, yeah. And now, if the board doesn't agree to spending, I don't know what it'll cost to mail.
50 cents a letter, 50 cents each.
So if the board doesn't agree, I've already contracted for the use of the town hall a week from Monday, where I will sit there and after inviting the public come in and fill out these things, I'll sit there all day long.
Mhm.
Well, there's a couple other people that'll relieve me. That's how strongly I feel about
Okay.
it.
Laura had her hand up a couple of minutes ago. I think
Yeah.
she wanted to
Yeah,
ask
okay.
you a
Well,
question.
I just two things. One is, and I appreciate this, although just to go on record, but just saying, we still do not have the roadmap of how your team will go from start to finish, because you said this is like step one. We still don't know what step 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are. So I just want on record to say we still do not have a roadmap from the volunteer team of how they would get to end game. I'm just saying that. The other thing I'm saying, I think this, there's a lot I think is great about the survey. What I'm questioning though is if we do agree that we're going to bring in a professional, wouldn't it make sense, instead of surveying townspeople twice, to have a professional also look at this question, to see this survey, to see if they would recommend additions? I think you've got a lot of great stuff on here, but just as Kathy said a few minutes ago about the library, and seeing, they brought the professional in, and we just see the level at which they're proceeding and the level at which they're giving broad thought to things and deep thought to things. If we are going to engage a professional before we survey the town, it might be nice to have a professional weigh in. I think you got a great start here, I just don't know if we want to be surveying the town twice.
My answer to your question is no, in terms of bringing in a professional. In terms of the library, we're all aware of the fact that the library went through a lot of storm and drama about what was going on. They eventually got a hold of a group of volunteers that spent a significant amount of time working in a peaceful, non-threatening environment, and they came up with this idea of the new two-story thing in the background, behind the building. Just very
The book
simply,
castle.
pardon?
It's called the book castle, that
Oh,
two-story.
whatever.
They also did have professional guidance though.
Not at the first discussions. There were a couple of people who were professionals in there volunteering their time. So eventually, they have hired professionals and blah, 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 and they're back in part to the same place. We do not need to spend a lot of money or just a little money for an inquiry, because Woodstock is loaded with smart people. I don't necessarily put myself in that category, but we've got a...
You heard it here, folks. I said you heard it here, folks. Sorry, couldn't resist.
We have smart people here, and not just smart, but experienced. One of the members of this gang is a former supervisor of the town. You know, who knows? Who went through actually with this recent executive summary. And I'm suggesting, please, let me come back next Tuesday, with a finalized version of the questionnaire.
But what about the rest of the roadmap as to how?
I will bring a brief roadmap on that. It won't be a full, highly polished, the RFP thing. It'll be a brief business, and I'll submit it for your consideration then.
Okay.
So both things.
I just want to say, Jay, I so admire you for sticking to what you believe in, for trying to do this without costing us money. I do truly believe we need a professional to help us with the first phase of this. That's, I so admire you for sticking to your guns, for working so hard. I will wait till next week, but I still feel we need a professional to at least get the input so that maybe then your committee can take over and write it up using the old comp plans and the new information.
I disagree, and
I know you do.
I'll break your other arm.
Not at this table.
I think
Am I gonna
Dr.
have to, am I gonna have to switch seats
I
here?
think Dr. Stewart did a really fine job on my rotator cuff, so I don't think I'm...
So let me add a couple of things. I did ask Dennis Doyle here tonight. He called me this afternoon and had to beg off as he had another commitment. And I would ask the press to talk to him tomorrow before they quote me quoting him. Okay? And I ask that each of you call him. But in a nutshell, Dennis did strongly feel that it was a wise decision to spend the money and get a professional planner in. I talked about a hybrid plan where we get, and he said that's great. It's critical to have participation. So he did not say that was a terrible idea. He said the planners could not do it alone. But he said you really need the planners to come in with an unbiased eye to really paint a picture of what town looks like and not what it looks like to you or me or former supervisors.
Dennis is in favor of us spending our money.
Yes, he is. So, and I urge each of you to give him a call and have your own conversations. I urge the press, Dennis Doyle, the county planner. So what I would like to do is try and come to some decision next week. If you could provide a road map.
I'll do both things.
Right.
Yeah, I'll have them for you next
And
week.
if we could all be prepared to make a commitment one way or the other. Because at the end of the year, if we are going to do the planning, we need to put aside money to do that. So we're cutting it close as it is, but we would need to start negotiations with Behan. Or worst case scenario, we put the $65,000 aside and assume that we're going to have money left over from that.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you for your work. I do agree with Kathy. And at the end of the day, I think it's going to be some hybrid plan where we can get a committee. I think a number of your committee people have expressed interest. Dennis suggested, somebody from the planning board perhaps, somebody, I think it's critical, somebody from the fire department, one of their commissioners perhaps.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
He rattled off about 10 or 12 different groups that we should be looking at. Somebody from the business community, somebody from the Environmental and Land Conservancy.
The group in Rhinebeck that helped to prepare their plan consisted of a couple of hundred people.
Wow.
From different parts of town,
Right.
from different departments of town.
Right.
They had,
Considerable number.
yeah.
Okay, so you'll bring the roadmap and then we'll, try and come up with an answer next week. Does anybody in the audience want to speak to this issue? Mr. Smith? you want to write the comp plan for us.
No, I do not. You're fine. I'm Kevin Smith, I'm chairman of the Woodstock Land Conservancy, and I also spoke with Dennis Doyle probably several months back, maybe as the proposals were coming in. We have succeeded with our land protection efforts in assisting the town with protecting more open space and including making open space open for recreation. We've assisted the town at Como, which is really becoming quite a municipal park in everything but name. And we've also opened 88-acre preserve on Stoll Road, just off West Saugerties Road, at the edge of town. We co-manage the Thorn Preserve, 60 acres, which is dead flat, very accessible for all kinds of users, that we co-manage with the Catskill Center. We have a brand new preserve that's going to open. It'll be our largest in the corners of Woodstock, Ulster, and Saugerties, just off of Highwoods Road. It's 123 acres. Snake Rocks off of Yeri Hill Road and Nordic Drive. That was a 6-year process to work that out in a way that really worked with the neighbors and that has really opened a very special and historic place to the community. We obviously think it's very important if there's a role that we can play to assist this process. We want to do that and commensurate with our land protection mission and increasingly what is a climate change and sustainability focus. I will tell you straight up, I think that the town would be best served by hiring a professional planning firm, especially one with the credentials of Beatty. And I looked at their work. I looked at their website quite carefully, as well as Saratoga. I think part of the real key here, I don't know that anybody is objective. Everybody has their biases. But I think it does help to get outside eyes and professional eyes that have gone through this kind of process with a number of communities of various sizes, including sizes probably pretty close to Woodstock's, and that really have a well-established process and are good facilitators, because this is really about midwifing a process with the community. And I think that the amount of money that the town spends, and I don't take it lightly at all, spending the taxpayers' money, will come back in orders of magnitude in terms of the benefit the town gets years to come, probably decades to come. We're living in unprecedented times. I will just point to the hurricane in 2011 and use that as an example of how critical it is now that we're looking forward with really wide, clear eyes at the kind of things that we need to build into our land use planning. And in terms of sustainability, Woodstock has a tremendous amount of assets. We also have some real challenges because of the geography and the terrain and the kind of community we are. So we're ready to help. I will just close by saying, I'll point to the Hudsonia Habitat Mapping Project that was done through grants that the town secured and contracted with Hudsonia for. I think that was completed in 2012, and that is, there's a professional document that was done in such a way that it is now being used. My understanding is it's being used by a number of people in town in different aspects, including the planning board, which really refers to that. It's a dog-eared document now from being used. The Land Conservancy, the year after that was done, we contracted with Hudsonia to help us develop our strategic conservation plan. So it uses many of the same data sets, many of the same maps. I think there's an opportunity to do something here that really is worthwhile, and I would heartily encourage you to go forward and hire a good professional firm, because the volunteers can help and work with them as members of different stakeholder groups with specific sets of expertise. So thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Anybody else want to speak to that point? Okay, so you'll have a roadmap for us next week, and
Yes.
and we'll try and make a decision one way or the other.
Yes.
Next, actually, I'm gonna jump, it's not on the agenda, but Ken, you wanted to come and speak?
No, all right.
Sorry, I did get the email in, but I think Carrie may have been.
Thank you, Bill.
Your fault.
Pardon me?
What are you going to speak about?
I'm going to speak about solar. It was probably like March or April when Jeremy announced that we were having some problems with our solar contract with the wording. And so this is kind of a report of what's happened since then. I found out that we weren't the only town having this problem. Socrates was having the same problem. SUNY New Paltz was having the same problem. But we didn't really understand what the problem was. Well, Central Hudson organized a meeting for the interested parties with the PSC up in Albany, and Jeremy and I went on June 23rd. And we had the VP of Central Hudson and the top attorney and the guy who was responsible for the solar installation. Vern Benjamin from Socrates was there, a couple of PSC staffers. And Paul Corbett, who's the attorney, was explaining, based on PSC law, section 66, if you want to be eligible for remote net metering credits, you have to own or operate solar array. Now, the whole idea of a power purchase agreement, which we had, was that we don't own it and we don't operate it. We turn all that over to someone else and that we just buy the power, sort of as a financial transaction. Well, the PSC had never heard of this before, right? Because there are power purchase agreements all throughout the state, which are doing just fine. There are actually power purchase agreements all throughout the Central Hudson territory, which have just been fine. Matter of fact, the PSC...
With remote metering?
With remote net metering. Well, this is great. And they even reminded Central Hudson that they ran a seminar for solar installers just a couple of months earlier, touting a particular installation which had this facility. But Central Hudson wasn't budging. So the PSC said, well, we'll send you a letter clarifying all this so that we can move ahead on these PPA agreements. Well, it was probably a month or two later, I asked Bill and Jeremy, have you heard anything from the PSC? And the answer was, no, we haven't heard anything. So I submitted a FOIL. Give me all the documentation, all the letters, all the correspondence in relation to this meeting. And what it came back is that no letter had ever been sent to Central Hudson. Although Vern Benjamin from Socrates had followed up, where's our letter? What can you do? What's the status? And the internal communication in the PSC was, well, I'm on vacation, you handle this, or I'm busy, can you take care of that? So, I mean, it was really a pass the buck situation. So, Socrates changed their plans. They were going to do a power purchase agreement. They went to an owned solar power, solar array, where they would actually be the owner-operator. Based on EPA recommendations, they're going to move it out to the landfill. So at this point, the Central Hudson interpretation of the PSC law, at least within the Central Hudson territory, stands. Meaning, we're not going to get approval from Central Hudson to do a PPA agreement. So that gives us, a couple of options. We could file a complaint with the PSC. We could start a proceeding asking for it to be approved. Because based on some other, what you might call malicious interpretation of the PSC law, other customers have gotten relief from the PSC.
For net metering. For net metering?
Yes, for net metering. Matter of fact, for remote net metering.
Remote net metering.
Yeah. So that's one option. But generally that is taken forward by the vendor who's familiar with all the process and the procedures. The other option, I suppose, is go back to what we were talking about before, where we actually just do smaller arrays, which we can own and attach. Like one at the sewer treatment plant, one at the wellheads, a couple of panels on top of the restrooms at the parking lot. But I think at this point, you really have to eliminate the possibility of a power purchase agreement within the short term in the Central Hudson.
So, well, listen, I mean, that's what 2 years ago, bought some of the projects. So why don't we set this as a topic of discussion for January? And between now and January, we can all start to think, get to you in second David, about the different options. And we'll see if we can't pick a direction then.
So we just finished up that clarification, so I just wanted to bring it to.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you very much.
Would you be willing to help us in, January if we wanted to move forward with something like
Sure.
this? Thank you.
Question for Ken.
Okay, Ken, don't go anywhere.
I'm sorry.
You got a
Ken,
question?
I thought the whole purpose of a PPA was that a municipality could not avail itself of the federal tax credits that are available for solar installations, but a commercial business could avail itself of those credits and then pass the benefit of those credits on to the municipality in the form of theoretically pass it on to the municipality in the form of lower rates. Am I misunderstanding that, or is that?
No, that's correct. I mean, that's the way a PPA would work, whether it's for a municipality or for a private business or for a homeowner. The owner of the PPA keeps the investment tax credit, and, if you're a homeowner, you can't use a 30% investment tax credit, or you just didn't want the commitment.
Correct me if I'm wrong, we could still do PPAs, that's not off the table, it's just that we can't do the remote net metering. For instance,
I don't know the answer to that question. I mean, you could just claim to be the operator, supposedly send a letter to Central Hudson saying, we'll take all responsibility for operation.
right, and then it wouldn't be an issue.
But
So
at this
yes.
point, the PPA financially is a bad deal. I mean, if we had that PPA for the last year, we would have spent about $16,000
More in
for
electricity.
electricity than we just
Yeah.
spent with Central Hudson.
So the fact that it's lagging is not
We
distressing.
didn't get hurt by it being lagged.
Was that just a bad business negotiation, Ken? Could we have done, if we had been more aggressive in the negotiation with the vendor, the person who was selling us electricity into the PPA, could we have gotten a better rate, at least in theory?
I don't know about the negotiation.
I don't think so, because it all comes down to the cost of money,
Yeah.
and what it was costing them to borrow the money to put up the panels, and what they needed to make per
But it would cost
kilowatt.
us, if we put up the panels and borrow the money, it would cost us the same money. We pay the
So
same price for
technically,
money.
it costs us less, because if we have a bond of some sort, we wouldn't be paying an additional percentage year after year after year. If we had a bond, it would be the same amount of interest every year. It's just that we had chose not to do that for various reasons. But, when you go with the PPA and they are increasing your payout every year, you're spending more and more money year after year.
I mean, what the issue was, when we signed the PPA, it was a good deal. I mean, we're talking about a couple of grand a year.
Based on what we were paying for
But
electricity.
the price of natural gas collapsing, the price of electricity has collapsed, and, just washed out the advantages. But that wasn't the issue with Central Hudson.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that's going to stay. I mean, a year from now,
Things are gonna go up again.
things could be back up again.
Oil's going up already, it's gonna go up again.
Yeah.
And so where does remote net metering play into this as opposed to individual installations? How does that change the equation, whether we have one installation that remote net meters the entire town's usage?
Well, if we do an installation like right at the sewer treatment plant, we can claim to be the owner operator. If, again, if it's a PPA, that's a different tariff when you're a PPA for a homeowner or on a single building than if you're doing remote net metering. And I didn't, we really didn't discuss the PPA agreements for.
And that's Central Hudson's tariff that's filed with the PSC?
Yes,
And theoretically approved by the PSC?
yes.
Okay.
It's actually the public service law that they're quoting.
Okay.
However,
But it's their interpretation of it.
Thank you.
if we do installations at point of use, there's no remote net metering, it's not a problem.
It's just net meter, it's like what we have on the,
Right,
Yeah.
that's not an issue.
On the town hall.
on the town hall and the highway direction.
Right.
Yeah.
So we could put a little field out there by the well pumps that use a lot, and we could do a field by the sewer treatment plants.
And you cover probably about 2/3 of the town's electricity usage just with those installations.
Right. The other thing that we, actually Stan Longer and I talked about, this is how we're going back, carport down there where the guys park their cars
Yeah,
and do a rack array system.
yeah, I think Kingston's, there's a.
I think somebody just, I think they did it, I think it was complete.
That's right, it is complete.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's up and running.
So there's options, but, what we were looking at before, Central Hudson really, I would call it malicious compliance, because the other vendors, the other utilities really don't have this objection.
Right. Okay, thank you very much, Ken. Water supply protection law. Jay, you guys have, you and your group had put together a packet.
Yeah, I don't, excuse me, I don't have that.
The packet here?
But I had tried to make sure that it would disseminate it
It's in the purple folder.
so that
so-
everybody would have a chance to read it and look at it. I support passing it,
Right.
but if you guys
What we
have,
need to do, though, if we're in agreement, we need to send it to the planning board first, because any zoning changes.
Well, they had seen it though. I mean, this is,
No, this
you're
is a
talking
new
about
doc-
update, you're
this is
just on the new
a
document.
new document.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Which they have now.
so then what's the process?
So the process would be, if we all agree that we're comfortable with the document, that we would move it over to the planning board for their comments.
Well,
Have you good with it?
Yeah.
Okay. Laura?
I should tell you next week.
Okay, so we'll make a decision next week about forwarding to the planning board.
Okay.
Okay.
okay, thank you.
And what is it that you're forwarding? What is it that you have at this point on that? Is it proposed legislation, or is it?
Amendments for the water protection.
Yeah.
Yeah, it amends to the zoning law, yes.
I got your letter, thank you very much. The last time we spoke.
But that was only on the other zoning updates.
Correct.
Now we're curious about what's happening with the, what are you calling it, the water protection?
Water supply protection. Actually, it says here water supply protection law.
Is that still in the form of an overlay district? or
Yeah,
what?
it'd be part of the zoning. So that's a little.
Is there a document that I can look at or get tomorrow, or do you have anything, Jackie?
I don't have it, but it's in the
It's
purple.
over there. I'll call me in a day or two.
Okay, well, give us a copy.
Well, is it online? Can it be emailed?
Is it on?
No.
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Jay, you don't have it online, do you? I suppose we can
No,
scan it.
oh, wait, I think I do.
Send it to Jeremy.
Yeah, could you send it to me? Are you gonna have Jeremy send it?
Well, send it to Jeremy. and then
Send
we'll
it to
out.
Jeremy, and then I'll send it out to everybody.
Okay, because I'll find
And
it
so the game plan
online.
is it goes to the planning board, they're gonna discuss it some more, and then it's not
The
legislation
ch-
yet.
Right, the changes have to go, the process for zoning
Have to be a
amendments, it has to
public
go to
hearing and
them.
all that.
Yeah.
But it has to go to them first, we have to agree on the document, and then
Does
we
the
get it
county
public
need to see
hearing.
any of it?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
This
it'll be a
is,
while.
this is just the beginning.
But you'll have a copy in a few days, I can?
Yes.
Okay.
Shoot me an email tomorrow. Ron.
Okay, thank you.
That's the best way to do it.
Is that the only discussion on this? Okay.
That's it.
That's it.
You've been sitting here waiting for that?
It's been an interesting. And you got my letter on the other.
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Are you gonna discuss that at all, or
Not
is
to-
it
not
is it
tonight.
helpful?
Yes,
Okay. All right. Thank you.
thank you, Ryan. All right, I guess we're on to some resolutions. Whereas staying in place, it can,
Jackie, had a question?
No, I just wanted to make sure everybody knows because it's not stay in place, it was
Staying.
staying in place.
yes.
Because we had the son of the mother who's in charge of that. It's Nick's mom, Edwina.
So staying, you
So
said
it's staying in
Staying.
place.
staying in
She
place.
only corrected mine, I guess.
Right.
Stay in, okay.
Whereas staying in place, a community organization dedicated to helping people debilitated by age to stay in their homes, requests that the town board waive fees for use of the community center on December 6, 2016, between the hours of 7 and 9 p.m. to update the community on the organization's progress. And whereas the town board finds staying in place and its objectives to be an asset to the community, therefore be it resolved to waive fees for staying in place.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, be it resolved to advertise for volunteers to apply for the open board positions, all our volunteer boards, and to use the town's website and Facebook page for the same purpose.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Question,
Yes.
when are you gonna let people know? Because you have to swear in on January 1st, so,
We,
Are you gonna do anything
We'll
next
probably do some interviews next week. We can't make appointments till the organizational meeting though,
week? On
And it could be
on
before
January
that, yeah.
1st. Or after.
You don't need me to do anything more, right?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Be it resolved to permit the deputy supervisor to sign the DWI task force agreement with the county of Ulster effective January 1st, 2017 through December 31st, 2017.
Second.
And Clayton had asked for this, so it works out well for them, so. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Be it resolved to hire Adam Gardner as a part-time grade 1 recreation aide, Woodstock Youth Center, at a rate of $15.34 per hour to begin December 14th, 2016.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved to permit the deputy supervisor to sign a letter of support for the Woodstock Land Conservancy grant application.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And the last resolution, I guess we will agreed to hold for a while, till next week?
That's okay.
Okay.
That's gonna hold till next week.
Yes, so I guess that's it.
Excuse me.
Yes,
The last resolution is the Woodstock free speech resolution, I believe.
yes.
And I spoke to Laura and Kathy today. Laura asked for some documentation, and what I wanted to propose was that I would furnish whatever additional documentation and/or information to the board at their request before next week.
I'll let you guys can converse over the next week to,
Okay?
and you
I
both.
mean, we can, I thought you were gonna bring something tonight. I could.
I have brought some things tonight, but I'm not sure, we have a lot of paper.
Do you have the executive order? I would like to be.
I do have the executive order
In hand?
in my hand.
I would love a
Yeah, I'd
copy.
like a copy of that. That'd be
I only have one of those, so I will,
If you give us one, we'll make that.
Yeah.
there you go. How about Alan Sussman's letter, which is a legal opinion?
And you'll have to.
I mean, if you want to give that to Jackie, as long as she's making copies.
Excuse me?
Yeah, as long as Jackie's making copies, if you want to give that to Jackie.
Oh, okay. Well, that's,
How do you
I got two things here. That's,
Oh, and the other one was, I just wanted to make sure that you all had the resolution that was passed,
I'll take a
and so
copy
you
of
know
that.
exactly.
Yeah, I can't take a copy now. I could dig it out, but it would save you time to do
Yeah.
that.
Okay,
Exactly.
so,
am I getting
and,
that too?
yes.
Yeah.
Anything else that you'd be interested in?
Well, I think that's good for me.
That's good for tonight.
All right. Okay, so I'll contact you both and in the next
What-
day or so and see if there's anything else.
That's good with you? Or you
Yeah,
want-
I want a copy of the executive.
No, that Nick will contact you in the
Oh,
next
yeah,
day or
yeah,
two.
that's fine.
Yes,
I mean,
Jackie has the executive.
I mean,
How many people want a copy of this? How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
Iris, yeah, you got Iris over there, these
Five,
two
okay.
here. Yeah, I mean, you're welcome to call me and ask me questions. I will be thinking about it, and I won't guarantee you, I'll give you an answer. I'm not guaranteed to give you an answer ahead of time.
No, I understand that. What I'm trying to do is
Make sure you give us
facilitate a
information.
conversation,
Yes,
make
thank
sure that you folks have enough information on which to base your decision.
Thank you, that's very helpful.
Great,
Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Well, Jackie is copying anything, anybody else?
I just have one thing, if I could just remind everybody, January 1, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but your tax bills will be coming out, so anybody that does not receive a tax bill within the first week of January, please contact my office. We all know what's happening with the post office, so a lot of times they're not getting where they need to be in a timely fashion. First week of January, if you do not have your tax bill, contact me. We can email, fax, mail.
And unfortunately, it is not, it's your responsibility if the tax bill goes out, whether you get it or not, the bill is due.
Okay. And then speaking of January 1st, can I mark on my calendar for a meeting, January 1st, organizational meeting?
Good for early, like January without
Typically, we meet on the first
I'll be
to
in,
organize.
I'll be in town then. I'm just trying to find.
And we're also going to be, I just want to say that once in a while, I grab my phone, and I don't want anybody to think that I'm bored with what's going on, but I do keep notes on here occasionally, and so it's all town business. Also, on December 30th, that's a Friday, we're gonna have to have a year-end meeting.
Yeah, I'm flying home, coming home at 10 o'clock tonight. I
So
can meet
you're-
on the 31st.
That's a Saturday.
I know it's a Saturday. I'm flying home.
I'm sorry, I'll make these
Oh, will you
copies.
two guys
Just
be-
trying to figure out when.
Okay, so probably we'll do it around noon on the 30th?
Okay, and usually we do the first early in the morning, or?
Yes, 10 o'clock.
Yes.
10
10 o'clock, you're at 10 o'clock on
Wait,
Tuesday.
Between
what
10
is
and
this?
12.
I'm sorry.
For the organizational meeting?
That's Sunday morning.
Yeah.
Well, it is.
We're
it's
gonna
January
do it,
You know, we could do the organizational meeting
On Monday.
on Monday. We could do it at 9 o'clock.
Whatever you say.
Monday is what, January
Second.
second? Not sure.
so you're talking the year-end noon on the 30th,
Yes.
and then Monday 9 AM for the
Yeah,
organization?
we'll have a resolution next week for those.
Okay,
but
just so
that's,
that happens.
Okay.
Let me see if I can
So,
just
so what are you doing on the
cooperate.
30th?
that's the year-end meeting. We just close out the books and
Okay,
tidy things up.
all right. Okay, if I realized I wanted to. So then January 2nd at 9 o'clock for the organization.
Yes. Nothing else? Move to adjourn. All in favor?
Or you can staple it.
I've been in it 4 weeks, 2 more left.